This week, as a prelude to the forthcoming Class 1 documentary, we begin a summary of this year's Clash of the Titans on the APBA American circuit. And a surprise newcomer.
Grand Blue on Ice 45-foot skater is a pretty innovative boat. We've made some changes to the cockpit this year to, we think, help with the aerodynamics, increase the safety of the boat. We have Mercruiser drives that are modified by Traction Products. We have the best power in the business with Sterling Power. And we think we have a package that is probably more competitive than anything that's out on the field this year.
Together with last year's UIM world champion John Tomlinson on throttles, Barber set out to defeat the likes of Carl Myers, Bobby Moore, Billy Moth and Joey Imprezia, and the king of them all, Matt Alcone. It would always be a season of some quality. And it was the sunny skies and flat conditions of Fort Myers, Florida that provided the ideal combination for Matt Alcone. In Heat 1, he was averaging 126 miles per hour as he took a clear lead ahead of Barber and Fountain. Barber, however, was raising an eyebrow or two. On more than one occasion, his economy of line almost made up for his lack of top-end speed. But it was Alcone's shudderingly high top end of 150 miles an hour plus that would ultimately keep the rest in his wake. Alcone carrying on where he had left off at Key West in the previous year, but Barber had made his mark. Round 2 at Corpus Christi, Mississippi was in stark contrast. A tropical storm forced the organisers into a storm course. And with Alcone suffering mechanical failure on lap 4, the stage was set for Barber to go one better than round 1. Billy Moth was providing more than adequate competition though, and it would always be a run to the line. Alcone's exit was both unfortunate and untimely. This year's APBA Class 1 fleet is particularly strong, and with all 8 results in the series to count, there was now plenty of catching up for him to do. And talking of catching up, Barber and Tomlinson, after holding Moth for 3 laps, dropped back. And it now left Tomlinson to extract everything from the throttles in a sprint finale. But they made it with less than half a mile to go. They took the lead and the first win of the year. Barber, partnered by last year's UIM world champion throttleman John Tomlinson, also thrashed the world kilo speed run at over 154 miles an hour and was looking for more.
These boats are capable of over 160 miles an hour in optimum conditions, and I'm sure that the speeds will continue to progress with the current class rules.
We've broken through the barrier where these big cats can now have blowovers, and that's a serious thing. We hadn't faced that in previous years. I think everybody has to look seriously and say, you know, is that as fast as we want these boats to go, or should we be doing something to limit the speeds? You can have an awful competitive race at 145 or at 155, but once you get blow over speed, now you're talking, you know, serious potential injuries.
Now, is that sour grapes, gamesmanship, or was Alcone losing his bottle? Well, the next round was Sarasota, and that was round 3. It was all gamesmanship, averaging over 126 miles an hour. Alcone proved his bottle is still as full as everyone else's, and he recorded his second win of the Tour, with Barber languishing in second. And they all moved on to Chesapeake Bay. Pretty name and some pretty hard charging. Flat out all the way, with Alcone struggling to keep in touch. Karl Myers was the high flyer this time, until, from out of nowhere, Alcone produced something quite extraordinary. Just 2 laps from the finish, he had trounced the top 3, including Barber, and was back on target for the title. Barber was back on his perch, championship lead evaporating in a midsummer heat wave.
It was really tough. We were battling as hard as we could on Carl's back corner for 2.5 laps, and finally we saw a real sliver of an opening on a turn, and we went for it, and then after that we got some clear water and we never looked back. But it was really tough. We had to run really fast.
The glitz and the glam of West Palm Beach, Florida was the next stopover, with Barber now defending a miserly lead of just 3 points. Early practice was called for, but would it be sufficient to stem the rising tide of confidence in the Alcone camp?
Strategic planning for every race, plus hoping to win every race. But yeah, 3 points out of 400 and some odd is not a great advantage.
A fact that hadn't escaped the notice of Mr. Alcone, who was also a frequent visitor to the practice grounds. And in his own self-assured way, was putting the position firmly into perspective.
Yeah, well, you know, there's 2 ways you could look at the season. One way you could say it's close on points, and, you know, for the excitement of the season, that's one way. But, you know, the way that we look at it is we've won 3 times. Every time our boat's, you know, around at the end, we win. So we just want to keep our boat running, and then we have the confidence that we can get across the finish line before anybody else.
A 4th victory would put him back in front. With the rest of the fleet paddling in their wakes, Alcone and Barber were once again head-to-head. But this time it was different. Pretty well all of the season's hype and backchat were due to be sorted out. And at over 160 miles an hour, this was as good a place as any to decide who was a worthy championship leader. had been times during the race when it looked as if Barber might strike the psychological blow he desperately sought. But once again, he was left to ponder his missing miles per hour. And Alcone, once again, he was on the brink, man, with his ship.
Well, I'm sure that nobody's going to, give up, and nobody's going to give us the title today. So they're going to push real hard, and that's great. And it's going to be real competitive from here on out. I don't think the story is over yet.
But the facts were a 30-point deficit going into round 3 had been converted into an 8-point advantage going into round 6. The Hurricane Classic at St. Petersburg, and one of the last opportunities for Barber to turn his roaring 140s on the Keno runs into a more usable asset in race conditions. A daunting prospect, with Alcone in such daunting form. For the first time in the series, the pressure was on the Texan. Conditions are flat for the race. It's a straightforward rectangular course. 115 miles is the asking distance, and it's off the start. Alcone on the inside, Barber centre, and Moff near side. Alcone wasted little time in staking his claim. After 20 miles, the race had settled into a goodly scrap per second. Barber eventually making that his own after a memorable tussle with Myers. But he could only watch as matters elsewhere disappeared into a cloud of mist over the horizon. It was victory number 5 for the Los Angeles Tycoon at 122.14 miles an hour. Drambuie was back on ice. The smiles were all one way. Lake Ontario, round 7 of the APBA Class 1 Powerboat Tour. And it was crunch time in the Drambuie camp. Another Alcone win would make life extremely difficult for their man. But the facts were, Alcone was in pole position in the championship, pole position in the race, and he had lots of ideas about it staying that way. Barber's game plan was also straightforward. If he didn't cross the finish line first, the chance of taking the title would become mathematical. He did his best, but with Alcone showboating it 200 metres ahead, the title was slipping away. Averaging just under 110 miles an hour, Matt Alcone and his throttleman Jerry Gilbreth led from lap 1 and were never seriously threatened. They went on to record their 6th win in 7 races. They would now have to break down in the final race if either Barber, Moff or Myers were to be champions. But the mathematics aren't required. At the coup de grace, South Padre, while Alcone had called all the late season shots, it was George with the final say.
What happened was overnight the storm surge from Hurricane Georges has come in here, and at 7 o'clock this morning the waves were 4 to 6 feet on the beach. Right now they're 8 to 10, and there's some even higher than that out by the jetties where the boats have to come out. And it would be very unsafe to try to bring the race boats as well as the rest of the patrol fleet out. So it's in the interest of safety that we must cancel the race.
So in the end, as he predicted, Ocon had beaten off the new challenge to his American supremacy. And Forrest, without actually coming alight, had smouldered sufficiently to serve notice.
It's been a long year, and what I feel best about is that after this year, I think that my throttle man Jerry can start getting the credit that he deserves. I think this has been a great showcase year for him. He's done a great job.
It's been an interesting year. I think it's certainly we're trying to come together with a new team, working with John Thompson and the crew at TNT. I think that came together pretty well. A brand new boat that was just barely in the water when we raced it the first time. Felt pretty good. Continued to try and develop the boat each race and keep up with our competition. It's been, I think both boats, our boat and the other boats in the open class have developed as the year has gone on. I think we've done real well. The boat has run strong. We've raced well and had a lot of fun doing it. We're going to continue to develop this boat. We have a few things we're going to try, and unsure exactly what, quite honestly, but we have some more things we want to try as far as the drivetrain, improving the efficiency of it, continuing to develop the motor program, and we want to turn it into a winning race boat and a national championship race boat.
From here on out, I think what we want to do is go in and put in a good, consistent performance in the World Championships and see, what we can do in Biloxi, and hopefully we can make the boat run that well. And then at the end of the World Championships, look and see what these guys are going to try to do to catch us next year.
Cloud 9 then for Ocon, but would he rise above the clouds to also capture the World Championship? It was absolutely amazing, and it's coming here exclusively on the Fast Tracks soon.